Implementing SwiftUI alerts and confirmation dialogs can pose challenges due to the need for precise control over them and how they appear in response to user actions. Beginners often struggle with understanding how to manage the flow of their SwiftUI apps while incorporating these crucial UI elements effectively. This video addresses these challenges head-on by providing a comprehensive guidance on implementing alerts and confirmation dialogues seamlessly. If you want to learn about iOS, Swift, or SwiftUI, go ahead and check out rebeloper.com/mentoring, where you can meet me on a one-on-one Zoom call. So today we are going to talk about alerts. Previously, I have talked about error alerts. Go ahead and check out that video in the playlist. The link is down in the description. Today, I'm going to make it even more versatile. We are going to use a universal alert controller. And some techniques are quite the same that in that video, so you might want to check that out, but no worries if you haven't done so. Today I'm going to type out all of that code, and as a bonus I have released all of this as a Swift package. It's at github.com/Rebeloper SwiftUI Alerts. So if you're interested how all of this is built out, stay tuned. We are going to start off with a brand new Xcode project. I have just added this button right over here so we can test it out. So what are we going to build? We are going to build a universal SwiftUI Alert Manager. I'm just going to call it controller. And we are going to incorporate alerts and confirmation dialogue. So it's really, really cool. And I want this to be able to create all of these in an imperative way. Like we're just going to say alert controller dot present and whatever alert with a title or a confirmation dialogue with these buttons in action and all of that stuff. So let's start coding because we are going to have some. So let's create a new file right over here, Swift file. Let's click on next. And there will be two types of alerts, basically an alert, which is actually an alert, and a confirmation dialogue. So let's create some alert types. So let's create, I'm just typing it out as public because all of this is inside Swift Package Manager. So now you will know which files or which functions, structs, classes you have to make public in order to that Swift package to work properly. So if you don't want to, you're just adding this to your own project, you don't have to add public at all. So I'm going to have a public enum of alert type, and let's have those two cases right over here, alert and confirmation dialog. Okay, so we have this. Next we want to create alert buttons, because remember in alerts there are buttons like actual real buttons. We want to make these accessible through our function like present that alert with those buttons. Therefore, we want to have a wrapper around it. So we are going to have these alert buttons. So a Swift file again, alert button. And let's just import SwiftUI. And let's have that public struct of alert button, and this will be identifiable. We are going to go through all of these array of alert buttons through for each view. So I just made this identifiable, a public let ID, and I'm just going to give this as UUID. Okay, so what does these buttons have to have? Title, roles, and actions, basically. So another public let title of type string, and then another public let role of type button role. That will be optional. If you just set this to nil, then the default value will be used. And then an action that will be a completion. So public let action and an optional completion. So just type it out like that. Okay, so, okay, we have this struct, but I actually want to give some default values over here. So I'm just going to create a public initializer for this with some default values. So public init. Yeah, for the title, I'm just going to leave it as is. So you do have to have a title for your alert button. A role, we just set this to nil as I told you. And for the action, I'm going to set this to nil. Therefore, I can just remove the escaping keyword from there. Okay, so that's our initializer. We are done with the alert button. Are you aiming to become an iOS developer? Collaboration with me as your mentor through rebeloper.com/mentoring can supercharge your career. With considerable industry expertise and a profound grasp of iOS development, I provide valuable insights, keep you updated on industry trends, and impart effectively coding techniques to enhance your success. Let's advance your iOS journey together. Connect with me at rebeloper.com/mentoring. Now, using the alert type and the alert button, we are going to create some alert details that we can pass along. So let's create another file. There will be a few files right over here, not that many. Just make sure that you watch till the end. It will come all together at the end. So alert details. There we go. Let's create that. Let's create a public struct of alert details. And what will we have over here? Well, our first one will be the type of alert type. Then we would have public let a title. Now this is the actual alerts title, not to be confused with the previous title that we have made, that is the buttons title. So this will be a string, and then let's just have also a message of type string. Yeah, not text for some reason. On the alert there is a text. It's just a message of string. And then of course the buttons. So public let buttons, an array of alert button, and that's it. The internal initializer of the struct will do in this case. Okay, so now we are ready to create our alert controller, which will have these alert details, and it will present, that will be our trigger. This alert controller will be an observable object, so we can access it in all of our views. I'm going to set that up as an environment object, actually as an environment, but you will see later. So we can have access to it throughout our application. But of course, first we have to create it. So let's create a new file right over here, and let's name this alert controller. There we go, alert controller. We want to import SwiftUI, of course, and this will be a public class of alert controller, and that's why we imported SwiftUI, because we need to have access to the observable object. So this will be an observable object. It will hold the alert details in a published variable, because many alerts will be presented one after the other, so these details will change over time. Therefore, this has to be stored inside the published variable. So published var alert details. And this will be of type alert details and optional. So we don't have to give a default value, a starter value, if we set it to optional. Now it's time to create some functions that would trigger the alerts / confirmation dialogues. So this will be, well, I would prefer two of them. One that is kind of a universal, and the other one is specifically for errors. So present. And what do we have to present? Or what do we have to move along? Well, the alert details. And these are the type, title, message, and buttons. So let's add those onto our present function. We could just add in present alert details, but it's not that readable. So I would just add in here the type and then alert type. Default should be .alert. You can see there's also confirmation dialog, and then there's of course the title, which is of string. We are going to, stick with that. And then there's a message of string, no initial values for here either. And then we're going to have some buttons, and that will be an array of alert buttons. And I want to actually have here a default value because sometimes I don't really care about the button. It should be just an OK button. For example, on the alert error, if I want to have an OK button, I don't want to be initialized or add that all the time. So I'm just going to create this alert button here with a title of OK. So that's our initial value for the array of buttons. And now all we have to do is just grab all of these properties and put them into the alert details. So alert details equals alert details, and I'm just going to pass along the type, the title, the message, and the array of buttons. And there we have it. We have our first, present function on the alert controller. Also, real quickly, and by the way, this should be public. Real quickly, let's create our other present function for the errors. So for the errors, of course, first you have to set up its type of alert type, and then you want to set up the title. In this case, it will have, of type string, it will have a default value, there we go, equals, it will have a default value of error. Next, I want to actually not have a message, I want the error to be moved in, so error. Of course, I'm going to get the localized description as the message, but I just want this to be of type error. And finally, the buttons will be exactly the same, right over there. Let me just paste that in. Okay, so now we are going to say alert details equals alert details type, just type, there we go, title, the same. Now for the message, I'm just going to get the errors localized description, and then buttons, I'm just going to pass them along. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. This is how we are going to present them. Now, this, as you can see, is an observable object, and because I want this to be available throughout our application, I would be tempted to set it up as an environment object, but instead I prefer an environment. It's much neater, not a long environment object. So therefore, I'm going to convert this observable object into an environment. So there are two steps required right over here. First is the key. So we want to create an alert controller key. Let's create that inside a new file. Okay. Let's import SwiftUI and then public struct of alert controller key, and this will be an environment key. Okay, and at main actor public static let, and we want to have a default value. As you can see, it already auto-completes, but instead of type value, I'm just going to give it the alert controller that I have previously created. So this is our environment key. Now, how can we access it? Well, we need to set it up as an extension for the environment values. So let's create again a new file. Next, and this will require SwiftUI because it's a public extension on the environment values. There we go. And basically, I'm going to call this alert controller. This is the name, like when you create an environment, like access environment like dismiss, for example, this is the name of it. So this will be of type alert controller, and we need to set its getter and setter. So a get, we are going to return self and alert controller key dot self. That's why we needed that key. And then setter set self alert controller key dot self equals the new value. There we go. Okay, So now that we have access to our alert controller observable object through an environment, it's time to use it. So we are going to create a modifier. This is basically the most complicated file in this tutorial, and this is actually using the alert/confirmation dialog view modifiers. So you will be able to show those alerts and confirmation dialogs. So let's click on next right over here and let's create an alert controller modifier. There we go. Let's import SwiftUI and let's create a standard view modifier, and let's rename this to alert controller modifier. Let's remove the preview and all of the unnecessary view modifiers right over there. Okay, so let's talk about how is this going to work. Well, eventually we are going to set up the alert controller inside an environment. Now we will be accessing it. So at environment and then /dot alert controller. As you can see, it's really nice. We have access to it. And this will be a private var and named alert controller. Okay. Then we are going to add on the content an alert and a confirmation dialog, but that needs to be triggered by some sort of a binding. And inside the alert controller, we don't have that. We do have our alert details, which will be changed, if you remember, from nil to a certain value. Therefore, I am going to need two state variables right over here. One state variable for private var for the alert presentation and the other one for the confirmation dialog. So is alert presented of false equals false. Let's duplicate this, Command D, and then is confirmation dialog presented set to false. Okay, so now it's time to add in, let's start off with the alert. So alert, and there are many initializers right over here. I will choose the one that's appropriate here. The title key is presented, actions, and message. So the title key, well, that is going to come from the alert controller dot alert details dot title. And if that's nil, let's just give it an empty string. Is presented. Now we are going to use the is alert presented binding. We're going to trigger it in just a second, but for now, just binding it. And then the actions. Well, we actually need some views right over here for the actions and message. Let me just comment this out briefly and create those two views. Because we can reuse these, I'm just going to create them as a functions. So buttons, for example, buttons, they will, this will return some view. There we go. So remember, on the alert controllers, alert details, we have an array of alert buttons. Here we are going to loop through them inside a for each view. So let's create that for each view. So for each data, and that will be alert controller dot alert details, those buttons. And because the alert controller is actually optional, then we need to set here a default value. An empty array will be just fine. And then we are going to get the button in, and we're going to use that. And basically, we are going to create a button with a title, role, and action. So the title will be the buttons.title, then button.role, and then the action will be, well, because it's an optional, I need to unwrap this. It will be the button.action, question mark, and there we go. That is a for each loop through our button. So we are going to put it in the action. What about the message? Well, that's even easier. Let's create that func message. It will return some view, and it's just a text of alert controller dot alert details dot message, and otherwise it will be just an empty string. Okay, so now I can uncomment that alert and just put the buttons in and the message in. Really great. Now, what we want to do is just create this for the confirmation dialog too. So we are going to use the one title key is presented, action and message. So the title key alert controller dot alert details dot title. If there is no value, then an empty string. The binding is different, is confirmation dialog presented, action the same. So buttons and then the message right over there. Okay, so now comes the magic, because we are actually changing the alert details only. So how can we trigger the actual state variables, the Boolean values, so they might show the alert and the confirmation dialog? Well, we want to listen to the alert details. So on receive, we are going to have here alert controller dot alert details, and we are going to perform. Here are going to have a new value. So first of all, we want to make sure that this is not nil. Remember, the alert details might be a nil. So guard let new value else return. So don't do anything after this line if the alert details is nil. And we are going to set the alert details back to nil when we are dismissing the alert/confirmation dialog. But for now, we have the new value alert details, and according to the type, we want to switch either this or this. So this is the code. So switch new value dot type. And this will have two cases. Case.alert, we are going to say is alert presented dot toggle, or yeah, I would just set this to true. Let's just set this to true. Make sure that it's setting it to true. Case.confirmation dialog is a confirmation dialog presented equals true. Okay, so this is how we trigger it. Now we want to set the alert details back to nil when those alert/confirmation dialogs are dismissed. And for that, we need to listen to the changes on these is alert presented and is confirmation dialog presented. So we are going to add another view modifier on change of, and we are going to say is alert presented. We don't care about the old value, but if the new value is false, so if not new value, then we would say alert controller dot alert details equals nil. We are setting it back to nil, and the same will apply for our is confirmation dialog presented, which is really cool. Okay, so that's our view modifier. Next up, we want to put all of this together. So you could just add that modifier and the environment on the root of your project, maybe the content view, but I would prefer creating a handy view modifier for that. So we are going to create a new file called uses alert controller modifier. There we go. And here, again, let's import SwiftUI because we are going to create a view modifier named uses alert controller modifier. Let's remove the content right over here. And what do we need here? Well, first of all, we want to create this alert controller. So at state object private var alert controller equals alert controller. Okay, next we want to add it as a modifier. So, we want to add the alert controller modifier and set it up as an environment object. So here's the code. So modifier, alert controller modifier, the one that we have just previously made. And then let's add this alert controller as an environment. So you have to use the environment key path and value. So the key path, we are going to choose the alert controller, and the value, the alert controller that we have just created right over here. This is this one, and this is the key path. Okay, so finally, we want to create an extension on the view, so we don't have to use this modifier. as is. So let's create a new file, and I'm just going to call this view plus because it's an extension on the view. Let's import SwiftUI, of course. And now we are going to have this as a public extension on the view. And this is just going to be called uses alert controller. There we go. It will return some view. And of course, it's just a simple modifier of uses alert controller modifier. Simple as that. Now, finally, let's use this. So let's go to the root of our app, and then just on the content view, let's just add uses alert controller. So now we may have access to that environment, which we are. So at environment backwards / dot alert controller private var alert controller. There we go. And now on the tap of this button, we are going to say alert controller dot present, and yeah, you could just have type, title, and error. I believe I just missed the type on one of them. Let me just go back to our alert controller, and right over here, this should be basically dot alert. So now the auto completion will be a little bit different. So dot present, yeah, this is what I want. Let's just go with the title and the message. So the title will be title, and the message will be message for now. So let me just build and run on the simulator. Basically, as you can see, that's it. That's all you have to do. It's really, really nice. You can use this with some button actions, which we will in just a second. But for now, this is just with a title and message and an OK button. This will work, of course, seamlessly with errors also. So let's see that. It's a building. Okay, let's just wait for that and tap on there. We have a title, message, and OK button, and that's it. But of course, there are some buttons too. So let's create those buttons. I would prefer creating them separately, but you could do that on the initializer. Let a buttons, an array of alert buttons. Let's just create them. And let's just have an alert button with a title of confirm, role, destructive, action. Well, just print out confirmed. There we go. And then let's just have another alert button with just a title of nope, maybe, and then the action of I don't know, print nope, and then a cancel button. So alert button with a title of cancel and the role of cancel and no action right over here. So I'm just going to remove that part. Okay, so I need to add a comma over there. So I'm just going to pass these as the buttons just like that. So finally, one final time, we are going to build and run and see this nice alert. Okay, we can confirm. You can see it says confirmed, and then nope, it says nope. We can cancel out of that, and it did not do anything. Now, we can also have this as a confirmation dialog. So dot confirmation dialog, comma, and then it will just pop it up as a confirmation dialog. It's not an alert, it's a confirmation dialog. And as you can see, the cancel button is popped down there. The order doesn't really matter. The version, the system will know how to put it in order. So let's just confirm that, or, just tap on the no button or the cancel button. Okay, so this is how you would do it. If you want to add this into your project as a Swift package, then just go to github.com/Rebeloper/SwiftUI Alerts. And don't forget, if you want to meet me on a one-on-one session, go ahead and check out Rebeloper.com/mentoring.